Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day one of using Cursor AI for web development and prompt engineering. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to understand how AI is changing the way developers write code, not in theory, but in practice. Earlier, development meant Googling errors, searching Stack Overflow, copying snippets, hoping they worked. Today, AI has become something very different. It is no longer just a search tool, it is becoming a development partner. But here's the most important thing. I want you to remember from today, AI is only as good as the instructions you give it. If your instructions are unclear, AI will give you unclear or wrong results. If your instructions are precise, AI can give you hours of work, which can be done in minutes. By the end of today, you won't just know what Cursor AI is, but you'll know how to talk to it properly so that it actually helps you instead of frustrating you. Think of today as a learning how to manage a very fast but a very literal junior developer. So, what you'll master today? Let's quickly look at what we are going to learn. So, the first thing would be engineering fundamentals. First, we'll understand prompt engineering fundamentals. Prompt engineering is not about fancy tricks, it's about learning how to clearly communicate with your intent to an AI system. Just like writing good requirements for a human developer, AI also needs clarity. The second thing is we'll look into how AI actually interprets instructions. AI does not think like humans. It doesn't understand context unless you explicitly give it. Once you understand this, many of the frustrations people have with AI simply disappear. Third, I'll teach you a structured repeatable way to write prompts, which means you don't rely on luck. You follow a formula that consistently produces good results. And finally, we'll get comfortable with Cursor AI itself, an AI powered code editor that understands your entire project, not just one file or one question. Now, let's talk about why prompt engineering matters. One very important thing to understand is that AI follows instructions, it doesn't think. It does not have the intuition, experience, or common sense. It simply predicts the most likely correct answer based on what you have asked. So if your prompt is vague, the AI has to guess. And when AI guesses, the output becomes unpredictable. Sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. And when people say AI is unreliable, that's what they mean. In reality, most of the time, the problem isn't the AI, but it's the prompt itself. For example, if I say make a website, AI doesn't know whether it's a portfolio, an e-commerce, a blog, or what technology stack does it need to use, what designs, what fonts, and so on. So that's because you haven't given it any example. But if I clearly say what I want, the AI stops guessing and starts executing. Like I said before, think of an AI like a junior developer. You give it vague instructions, you'll get vague results. But if you give it clear answers, you'll get clear, solid code. And this is one of the most important reasons why prompt engineering matters. It helps you give clear instructions to AI, which the AI will understand and given in return a clear output. It's not just a way of talking to AI, it's also making it understand what you actually want. So, what is prompt engineering? The first part is communicating intent. Okay, so prompt engineering is a practice of converting your ideas into clear, structured instructions that the AI can understand and execute correctly. The first part is communicating intent. You're telling the AI what you want to achieve, not just the output, but the purpose behind it. For example, make a form is vague, but create a contract form for a portfolio website to collect user inquiries clearly communicates the intent. So that is the first part of the prompt. A prompt is mainly consisting of three parts. For the first would be, as I just explained, communicating intent. What is the intent of the prompt? What is the basic gist of what you want to do? And the second part would be providing the context. Context tells AI about your environment, the technology you're using, your skill level, and your constraints. AI behaves very differently when you say when I'm a beginner using plain HTML and CSS versus I'm a senior React developer. It sets a field or a playground, or more like in developer terms, an environment for the AI to work around. And the third part, controlling quality. You can tell the AI how clean the code should be, whether accessibility matters, whether performance matters, and how much explanation you want. This is how you move from random outputs to professional query results. So as you can see on the screen, I have given some example. If you directly, like I have been saying, the prompt needs to be clear, precise, and exactly explain the AI what do you want it to do. If you just simply prompt it, like an example of a bad prompt would be make a nav bar. This lacks context, specifications, direction. The AI must guess your requirements. Whereas if you, in the same type, you give it a prompt like in the good prompt example, create a responsive nav bar using HTML and CSS with mobile first design. This provides a clear technical requirement and a design approach. So the AI knows exactly what you're going to do and how it will give you a result which is most close to what you are expecting. Okay. So the prompt formula that I talked about is consists of a five-part structure: the role, the task, the context, the constraints, and outputs. So this is how your prompt should follow through. What is your role? What is the task that you want the AI to do? What is the context that the AI might need to understand that task? And what are the constraints, like the parameters or the boundaries within which this task should be done? And what is the format of the output? How would you like your output to be? So for that, let's start with the role. First, we define the role. You tell the AI who it should act as. This changes the quality and the style out of the output. For example, act as a front-end developer or act as a senior software engineer. This enables the AI to think of in a very professional and in a very experienced way. This actually changes how your code output is shown. Second, clearly state the task. What exactly do you want done? Create, refactor, debug, explain. These are the certain keywords which you can use to explain your task to the AI. Be explicit, be clear, and be precise. Third, provide context. Mention the technology, the project type, or any background information you think might be relevant for the AI to know to give you better results. Fourth, set constraints. This is where you control quality. Mobile first, no frameworks, accessibility, performance, so on. So just to give it a constraint key, okay, these are the parameters. I'm building an app for a mobile. So you'll think of it in a mobile way. If you're making a web development, give it a React based uh, constraint key. This is how you have to work with. And finally, the output. You need to specify a basic output format. You do not only want to code. The code with explanation, step-by-step guide, how do you want it? That's up to you. When you combine all five of these formulas together, an AI output becomes predictable and reliable. So the different prompts that developers use. In real projects, developers mainly use AI in four ways. One is for code generation, second is for code explanation, third is for refactoring, and fourth is for debugging. So code generation is when you ask your AI to create new components or features from scratch. Whereas code explanation is extremely useful when you're reading unfamiliar or legacy code. So in case you've been taken into a project in your team, which you're new to, but it has already been working on. So at that point of time, you can use your AI to explain you the existing code to understand what features it uses, what different components are there, what are the different logic behind this. Anything you can ask it, it will explain to you. Refactoring prompts helps you improve reliability and maintainability without changing behavior. And finally, debugging prompts help you identify errors, understand why that happened, and fix them. These are the four prompt types mainly developers use on a daily basis. Okay, so let's look at good versus bad prompts. In a very common bad prompt would be a simple fix this. There's no context about the problem. There is no indication. There is no desired outcome. The forces the AI to make assumptions and produce irrelevant results. So if you just didn't even, if you don't even highlight the error or if you don't give it any context, just the statement itself fix this won't help the AI understand what is wrong with it and what you want fixed. So it will try to make assumptions, and most probably it will try fixing the wrong thing which didn't need to be fixed in the first place. A good prompt would be something like this: fix the JavaScript error, explain what caused it. This the identifies the technology involved, requests the both solution and explanation, enables learning from fix, and produces actionable and educational output. The golden round: be more specific to your prompt, the better the output. Precision in your questions lead to precisions in your AI responses. Never settle for vague instructions at all. Now let's talk about Cursor AI. So Cursor AI represents the next evolution in code editors like AI-powered development environment that understands your entire project, not just isolated snippets. It is built around VS Code so that you have a familiar interface with all your favorite extensions and shortcuts. And the most important thing that it has a full project context. AI understands your entire code base, file structure, and dependencies. It does not only understand what you have asked it, but also understands the context behind it. What is the project about? What are you talking about exactly? You could just prompt it to a certain page or a certain component, and it will be able to extract that code directly by looking into your code base. Direct integration. There's no copy paste workflow. The AI directly works on your file like you would work on your files. So that is why it is different from Claude, ChatGPT, or Lovable. It is a direct IDE. It is an AI powered IDE which helps you directly change your code within the code itself. Okay, so Cursor AI offers several powerful features. You can chat with AI, it understands your entire code base. You can also generate, modify code directly inside files without copy pasting. Cursor can refactor code while respecting your project's existing patterns and helps analyze errors and fix them faster by understanding the surrounding context. Since it has an idea of what the whole project is about, it helps you uh, cover all the four types of prompt which I explained earlier. That would be debugging, refactoring, and code generation and explanation. All of those in a very efficient manner. Okay, so let's look at cursor and how it looks. So when you're going to open a new project, let's open a new window. Yeah, so this is how it looks when you open your cursor window. You would have your open project, clone repo, and connect via SSH. The open projects lets you open any different type of projects you might have stored locally. The clone repo helps you connect your cursor ID to the GitHub repos you might have or you might be working on. And connect via SSH is to connect to the codes you might have or the projects you might have deployed on a dev server or a production instance. So let's look at the main screen. Once you open a project, this is how it looks. It might not have anything, any chats or anything like that. So this is how it would look. You have your agents, you have your chat window, you have your code window. Below you have your terminal, and on the left side you have your files. So before we dive into that, let's look into some settings that the cursor provides. Okay. So, yeah. Hmm. Okay, so when you look into the general settings, you can see your basic account settings, your editor settings, some shortcuts. You can go through these shortcuts. These explain what different type of shortcuts that I already inbuilt in your cursor, and helps you get a bit faster as you move along with them. Rather than typing or searching for those things, you can just familiarize yourself with these shortcuts, which help you understand what like how to do things in a more efficient way. So the main thing that I want to look at is the models tab. So you can see I have a certain model selected, and there are a lot of models which I have not selected. So this is mainly because based on what I like to work with, what models I find best while I'm working for different tasks I would like to do. There are n number of models you can use in Cursor. There you might see something different where you might see a small brain icon beside some models. Those are thinking models, whereas the normal models, as you can see, don't have that brain icon. So the thinking models take a bit more of your context, whereas a normal model might take less of a context. So what do you mean by context? It's basically what number of tokens your model will remember at a time. So if I look at Composer, you can see it has a 200 context window, 200K context window. So that means it can remember up to 200,000 uh, tokens at a time. Whereas if I look at 4.5, that also has a 200 context window. You can see this one has a 272K context window. That would be GPT 5.1 Codex Max. So similarly, all the different, just go through this models list whenever you first get into Cursor and analyze and see what different types of model would you want in your arsenal. And now going to the agents tab. Agents tab is basically gives you or how your agents will work on your code, where you want it to be the text side. These are all basic reviews. There's also a feature called review in Cursor where your agents can review the code that you have done. You can set it to on commit. So if you're working with GitHub, every time you commit a code or a feature, it will review it and then push it off. So you can have AI as a reviewing factor as well. And there are also different settings which helps you apply changes, auto runs. You can select it every time how you want it. I have always set it on allow list, which means there is a list of commands that I've allowed that the model will not ask for permission for. But if you want it, you can put it for ask every time. So wherever it runs, you can add like it will ask you before running a command. And if you trust it entirely, you could also use run everything just to play with it. But I would also suggest that you keep it at allow every time or use allow list so that you are able to monitor what your AI is doing. You always need to monitor what your AI code is written, because it is not a guarantee that every time the code produced by the AI would be 100% accurate. You have to review it, you have to test it, you have to check it. Where AI comes into picture is the productivity and your efficiency at writing code, in debugging your code, in explaining the code, in understanding, refactoring your code. That is where your AI helps, but you cannot rely on it 100% of the time. Even though you might have a very good prompt, you still need to verify and check it so that you can 100% confirm, okay, this is what I wanted, this is how it has given me the output, and I can go ahead with it. So just keep that in mind and you'll be good to go. Now, coming to the rules and commands. So there are different rules you can set that your cursor AI will adhere to while you're working on your projects, and each project has a certain uh, can have a different set of rules. So how it works is basically a rule is basically nothing but certain constraints that you provide to your AI, or certain parameters you provide your AI that it should always work within those parameters. So as you can see, a few rules have been added. The user does not prefer to have test scripts created by the assistants. They will test using the application directly. This is something I do find a bit annoying with Cursor. That would be that whenever you ask it to confirm a task, and if you're working with something for a long time, and you see that again and again it is sharing the same and same errors, what it will do is it will start creating the test scripts automatically. So to avoid that, I have asked it rather than creating the test script, if it is a simple thing, I would just like to run the application and check myself rather than letting the AI do the testing as well. And so you can use those user rules. Then you have your project rules and your project commands, which is specific to these workspace. Now coming to indexing and docs. So what is indexing? Indexing is nothing but you have your code base. Okay, now while you're working with your code base, over time it might increase in size. It might be hundreds of scripts, and each of those scripts might be 1,000 lines long. So how do you like expect the AI to understand and remember every time where your exact files are? So it uses the method of indexing to get a shortcut pointer for each and every aspect of your file. And when you type a prompt, it indexes your prompt against your code base and gives you the most relevant files or the most similar files which you might be asking, and then it reasons with those files asking, okay, is this what the user is asking for? And then it reads it, it grabs it, it understands, and then it starts working on that exact file what you were asking for. So I would always suggest, if you're working on an existing code base and you're new to Cursor, you want to try it out, go into the indexing and docs folder in your Cursor settings, and just if it has not been indexed, you could click on it and it will start indexing all your files. It doesn't take much time, but that also the timing also depends on how big your code base is. And you can have some extra settings on top of that. That would be index new folders, repositories for instant grep, and ignore files in cursor.ignore. So in your cursor.ignore, you will always have, it's like a git ignore file, wherein git ignore, you type the folders or the files you want your git to ignore while committing and pushing. Similarly, cursor also have a cursor.ignore where you can put in your .envs and other files which the cursor will ignore and not look at. Some files you might have, most probably it is like most of the cases, it is the .env file that contains all your private information for relating to your project or your company. So in that cases, it is always good to have your cursor ignore having all these files added. Okay, so now I think I have covered all the settings. Yeah, and one more very important setting that you need to look at is the privacy mode. Okay, so if you're working on company data, I would highly suggest that you use the privacy mode. But if you're a student or just exploring and working on private projects, you can always use it to share data. This helps improve cursor for everyone. So it's like a community uh, service you would be doing for the other coders as well. So that's completely up to you. I normally keep it at privacy mode so that cursor doesn't use your data to train its AI models. Okay, now that we have completed the settings part, Let's look at a prompt example of how a one-shot prompt works. So there are many different types of prompts. Yeah. So there, as I was just saying, there are many different types of prompts which you can use, which you can incorporate in your prompting to give you more accurate results. So what are they? So one would be code generation prompts. Prompts used to create new from scratch codes. Okay, they start with a new feature, creating a boilerplate, or if you need rapid prototyping. I would give you an example of act as a front-end developer, create a responsive navbar using HTML and CSS, follow mobile-first design, written only the code. Then there are code explanation prompts where you have prompts used to understand the existing code. And then we have a refactoring prompts, which help you improve the quality of the code without changing the functionality. So if you have a code which is redundant or has a big time complexity, so you can also use similar prompts. An example would be refactor this function to improve readability, maintainability, and do not change its behavior. In refactoring prompts, you need to specify what you do not want to change. If in case you are refactoring something to reduce the file size or reduce the time complexity of it, you need to explicitly mention that do not change the logic behind it or do not change the functionality of this feature. Then finally, we have our debugging prompts where prompts used to identify, explain, and fix errors. And with debugging prompts, I've always found it best that it is always better to make the AI understand and explain the error first before fixing it. So that the AI self fetches the context for all the different all the different errors you might be facing. Okay, now let's look at structural prompt types. There are different prompt types. One would be a zero shot prompts. These are where no zero examples are given. It's a very straightforward prompt, very mainly used for looking at creating straightforward features. So if I just want to, I'm just exploring cursor and if I create a zero shot prompt, that would be like create a responsive nav bar. Uh, new file. So as you can see, this is what a zero shot prompt looks like. It will listing the current directory it is seeking for the context since I have not given it any context. As you can see, it has understood the context. It read the existing index.html file and now it is creating a navbar.html differently in a different file as I mentioned it in a new file. If I had not mentioned it, it would have most probably started creating it in the index.html itself. So as you can see, it has created a navbar.html. You can see it has specified all the CSS settings and what it should, the JavaScript code for it as well. And on the left side in the chat video window, let me enhance it a bit. Yeah. So it has given sticky navigation that stays on the top while scrolling. A mobile hamburger menu activate 744, 768 pixel and below smooth. So it has explained what it has done. So it is, I find it always good to read if you're just starting out with cursor. It is always good to read these explanations to understand what type of responses you get on different types of prompts. So as you can see, it has also mentioned the behavior and the features itself, and also a basic summary. The navbar uses HTML as your existing way, and you can also customize links, logos, styling as needed. Open navbar HTML, and also gives you an example of next steps also to how do you open it or how do you run your code. That also can be very helpful for beginners who are just working, like getting into coding and programming. So now you have three options. One is undo, one is keep, one is review. So when I click on review, you can review it, check, and if you want anything to change anything, you can change it. And if you want to redo the prompt, you can undo it. And mostly you can, if you are satisfied with what you see, you can keep it. Now, if I click on keep, you can see all the green highlights are gone. And now it is just like a normal script. Now let's open up the navbar file. And as you can see, this is a SATA. This is what it has given me. We have about, we have services, we have portfolio, we have contact, we have sign up, and there are features, and you can see how it looks. And this is a very straightforward prompt and a very straightforward setting that it has given me, since I did not explain what I want the navbar to do. So when I click on it, nothing happens. If I had explained in the about section, add something, it would have added those things. So now coming to the example of a one-shot prompt where you give it an example, you clearly explain what to do. Okay, so following the formula, I gave it a goal. Yeah, build a tiny focused timer task app from scratch in a single index.html file, no build tools, no libraries. It should run by double clicking the file in the browser. Deliverables. I have given it all the deliverables, and all of those I have mentioned to be in a single file. So it creates a semantic HTML plus modern minimum dark CSS, vanilla JS, and then the features: timer start, stop, pause, reset, 25 focus, 5 minute short break, 10 minute, 15 minutes long break, progress bar that fills as the time elapses, task list, add, mark, complete, delete functionalities, persistence via local storage, keyboard, space toggles, starts and pause, li basics, proper labels, ARIA well helpful, focus states, requirements, and all these features I've explained. And now coming down, I have also explained the UI layout in a rough manner. That would be my header, app title plus short tagline, card one, that would have a large timer display, buttons, mode, select, progress bar, tip line, etc. And then I have my card two, which would be input, add button, list of tasks, clear, completed, and clear all. And implementation notes, timer runs with set interval 1,000 seconds and keep a seconds counter total. And then I have also given it a style guide where I give it a dark theme and all the different RGB colors that I need in a specific format. You can always specify what you need, and in case you are not clear on what colors you want to use, you can always ask the AI itself to suggest some colors, and it will suggest it according to your preferences. And then at the final of it, I have given the output definition where I can open the India, see the timer defaulting to 25 minutes, start, pause, space button, and switch modes, watch the progress bar, add, complete, delete tasks, reload and see tasks persist, navigate via keyboard with clear instructions, focus, state all without any external dependencies. And in the final, please generate the complete index.html file now. Now looking at it, let me go to the chat. And as you can see, I have already bent it. So when I entered the prompt, it started reading the same steps it did while building the navbar.html. It started grabbing the context, but while I was building this, the folder was empty. So it directly started creating a to-do list. And you can see the to-do list matches my format in the prompt, and it tests all functionality. It created an HTML file and then it gave me a summary where it has the three modes. It has the start, pause, reset button. It has the progress bar, space key toggles, title updates with remaining time, completion notification, task management, design accessibility, key implementation details, and how what just basic summary at the end of it on what to do next. So let's look at how it looks. As you can see, I have my title, a small tagline. I have my focus, short break, long break. The timing is changing. Comparing it to a zero shot prompt, this is what I meant when I said a good prompt and a bad prompt. The more you explain it, the more features it can add on to it. So with my my navbar prompt, I did not explain anything. I did not explain any functionalities. I did not explain any tasks that needed to be done. I did not explain any designs or anything like that. So what it did was it grabbed the navbar, the index.html file, and it understood, took some context from there, and it created a responsive navbar. Like assuming that I needed for a certain brand. So it gave me about services portfolio contract. But when I click on it, it doesn't do anything. Right? None of the buttons have any functionality in them. Whereas when I click on these buttons, you can see the timing is changing. Okay, I can add task. Like, as you can see, I can add tasks. I can select it. I can clear completed. I can clear all. It asks me, do you want to clear? And all the buttons have a functionality. I can start the timer. I can pause it, I can reset it. Similarly, for short breaks and long breaks also, it starts the timer, it can pause it, it can reset it. So this is how what I meant when I said ki you need to give it more precise and more clear understanding. It is not any special trick or any special formula, or there is no magic to it. It is just simply putting what you are thinking in a very elaborative, in a very descriptive manner to the AI. So whatever you want to do, you have to put it in a very descriptive manner so that your AI is clear. It does not assume anything. Where it assumes, it has a possibility to go wrong. Where it knows what to do, there is a very little risk of for the AI to go wrong with your output. Okay, so now let's dive into creating a new React app for with a similar aspect of where you add a to-do list and application. A small to-do application will create it using React, and it's just a simple project to get to know how cursor works and how you can increase its productivity and its precision with a proper prompt. Following the formula, first I define the role that would be act as a senior React developer. Okay, now I give it the task that would be create a small to-do application using React. Now I provide a context. This project is for beginners who are learning React fundamentals, who use functional and React. Now we move on to requirements. Requirements would be users should be able to add a new to-do task. Users should be able to mark a to-do task as completed. Users should be able to delete a to-do task. Also, since we are just creating a React app, let's not add a backend to it for like simplicity purposes. So I would like to store all the tools in a component state, which I explicitly mention it as no backend. Use clean and readable code. Use basic CSS or style. That means no external UI libraries, so that I don't have to install any other libraries. It is a very self-centered project. And now we move on to constraints, which will have use only React, adding some not to do's as no Redux, no active libraries. Use, use, and use, the, and use, the, spec, where appropriate, Relay, keep the project simple and beginner friendly. These are just extra constraints I've added for it to understand, to not make it more uh, complicated or not to make it over the top. And the output, we add provide the complete yeah, component code, provide a yeah, brief explanation of how the app works. Okay, so I think this looks good. So as you can see, according to the formula, going back to the formula, you can see I have my role, task, context, constraints, and output. Similarly, I have my role, act as a senior React developer, the task of what to do, and the context, what this project is for, the requirements, which are also a part of the context, and then I have my constraints, and finally the output. Now over here we can use a specific model for it to do, but now since this is a very straightforward task, I would prefer it to be at auto. Just This is just to save my tokens and limits, and also to explain to you what different things are there. We have an agent mode, a plan mode, a debug mode, as well as an ask mode. So in ask mode, if I type in the same prompt, it will just give me an answer like how it would in a chat GPT or Claude. Whereas when I click the agent mode and I put enter, this is when all it has the ability to work in your code base. So as you can see, now it is creating a simple React to-do app with functional components and hooks. It will take some time and it will create a JSX file. And that is it. It created four files with each of with 100 plus lines of code within seconds. I did it live in front of you. So as you can see, it is really fast on how you want it to do. Okay, so and it has also explained to me what files it has created, main React control used with build tools, standalone HTML file ready to run, uses React from CDN, styling for the app, and documentation. How to use OpenDot in your web browser. It uses React from CDN, so no build is necessary. Like I mentioned, no framework is required. Component structure, simple component files, state management, to-dos, input values, key features, add to-do, toggle completion, delete to-do, use effect hooks, load from local storage, and all of that. So let's keep all and let's test it out. So I have my to-do app, and as you can see, it has created, I add a new task. Let's say, oh, series. I add a task. I can delete that task. Okay, that is good. So as you can see, you can always use all these tools to quickly create a simple project as well as start working on complex projects as and when you gain more and more experience and more familiarity with the project. You'll able will with cursor, not with the project, but with the cursor, you will be able to use it in a more efficient manner, which in turns improves your project productivity as a software developer. So as you saw, you would have noticed how clearly my prompt mentioned my task, how clearly it did add all how in the prompt I have added all the specific requirements, all the constraints, all the uh, criteria for it to be completed as done. And because of this, all the instructions were clear. It created a very smooth tasks like study, play, rest. You can see as I'm clicking on it, all the tasks are completed. Now I can delete the tasks and it's changing over here also. So this is a very straightforward application. And you can play with it, you can understand, you can create your own ideas and bring them to code. If you have an app idea, just try it out with Cursor, explain your app idea to the AI, explain it in a very detailed manner, use this formula, you set up a role, you set up a task, you set up your context, you set up its constraints, and you specify how you want your output to be. If you just follow these simple steps, I guarantee you your AI will start to perform better rather than just giving it a simple, boring prompt like create a to-do example or to-do application like that. So let's play around with it a bit more. Okay, so let me just test one thing. If I add the task and if I close this, does it hold? Yeah, it does hold. And you can see because in my prompt, if you remember over here, I have mentioned in to store all the to-dos in a component state. Yeah. So as you can see, each and everything that I have written has come into picture and I can delete and yeah, this works well. Okay, so to play with it a bit more, let's improve the UI. So I have given it a simple refactoring prompt. You can use this as an example of a refactoring prompt where I have asked it to do something without changing the logic and add a new or some emojis and some icons. This is a simple, yes. Now it is enhancing the UI. If I had not added the line add some emojis and icons, it would have started assuming and started doing some UI changes. Now, since I hadn't specified anything, it would just try to do UI changes based on what it thought would be the best. So let's see what it comes up with. There is a lot of assumption going on in this prompt as well, but I have given it a certain direction, you could say, of where you want to go. So as you can see, emojis and icons, styling improvements are there, and logic is unchanged. So let's open it and see. Yeah. So as you can see, it has a much better design, but you can see there might be some flaws over here. Over here, I would like this add task button to be a bit in a whitish color rather than a darkish color. And I can still add a new task. Yep, you can see much better, and when it is completed you can see it is changing. Let me also add a new task: play, rest, sleep, gym. So you can see it includes and it has added one, two, three, four, five, six. It works upon six, it adds a new. So these are just simple, very basic UI component. You can see it has added a hover function. Whenever I'm hovering on it, you can see it is changing the state. The buttons are coming a bit onto you, like they are popping out of the screen. So these are very minor UI changes which increase your, like it increases the user experience in a positive manner. So that might be good to add. So as you can see, that was one example of a refactoring prompt. What else can we do? Okay, so let's try adding filtering. We'll go with a simple filtering, or let's first fix this add task button. So what I normally do is I'll just take a screenshot of this component. I'll add it to give it a visual cue, and I'll say in the add task button, in the add task button, the plus symbol is in a dark color. So it is not visible. Please make it white. Same as the add task text. So as you can see, I gave it where to look. I told it what the problem is. I told it what the solution is. And for the solution also, on top of that, I added a reference key to understand what exactly how I want it to be is the add task test in the same button. So let's see how it works. Yeah. So as you can see, it has replaced the emoji with a plain plus character that inherits the button's white color. As you can see, since I provided it the context or a reference to use the same uh, task as the add task text. So similarly, and made some changes. Now let's look at it again. And yeah, so as you can see, now it is white and the visibility is a bit more clear. So you can see minor fixing, minor debugging can also work with cursor. You just have to give it a clear context and a clear reference of where your error is. It always helps if you know the code base yourself as well. Let's say you're working on a very big code base and you have a problem in the login functionality of your code, of your application. So if you just directly type key, okay, no, this is not clear, I need to fix this, it won't be able to understand. Whereas if you provide a photo and on top of that, you can add context in your cursor where you can add different files. As you can see, I can add my files, I can add folders, I can also add docs, I can add terminals, I can add past chats, branch, browsers. All these things can be added in context just to improve. Now, since this is a very small and a very straightforward project, this would not require so much of the context gathering, just a simple screenshot and the name of the button should work. But in a big and more complex projects, adding those contexts really helps save time and contexts, like context retention, so that your model remembers more as and when you go ahead with your chats. And as you can see over here, you can see I have used some of my context. Yeah, you can see there is a bar. I have used 18.9% of my context as of now for this chat, not for the whole program or the whole plan as well. You can have multiple chats in a window or in a project. So let's move ahead with adding a filter. So let me explain it. Add filters to show all completed and pending tasks. Yeah, it's just a simple prompt understanding, giving it a new feature because all the constraints and the roles I have identified are not identified, but what do you call it, mentioned or stated clearly in the first prompt. So this is a follow-up prompt, not a separate prompt altogether. Had I used a new chat and given this filter, then I would have to restate all those prompts and the roles, the context, the requirements, everything again. So you need to keep in mind if you're switching your chats, you need to have that context set always. The first prompt should always set the context. The rest of the prompts should be your follow-up prompts so that you don't have to type again and again all those heavy prompts. Just type the heavy prompt once, put it in there. It has that context till your context window is completely used. It will remember it. And once you have done that, you can switch to a new task and start again. Yeah. So as you can see, it explains the new features which are added, the filter buttons, all pending and completed, the features, The filter logic, dynamic counts, visual feedback all looks good. UI enhancements, adding those. So as you can see, it is trying to keep up with all the specifications I have provided in this chat window. So earlier I told it to improve the UI using emojis and icons, so it did that. And or before that, I also added of keep all the logic preserved, so it also maintained on doing that. So it keeps in mind, it is remembering the context from the same chat. But if I change the chat, it might not remember it. It might not, but when you are in the same chat, it will always remember those contexts. Okay, let's keep it same. Let's reload it. Uh, okay, play. Okay, the workout. These are just simple examples of your daily tasks. And as you can see, it still has the same functionality. I can see all tasks, pending tasks, completed tasks. Let me just click a few so that I can see my all, my pending, what I have completed. And similarly, if I am zoom it out a bit so that it's visible in the screen. And now if I complete it all, you can see that functionality still works properly, zero pending, and the filters are there. I can still delete it. It works. Okay, cool. So this is how you can use cursor. This was just a brief explanation. In the next video, I would be going through a bit more advanced projects of a bit realistic project where we would be debugging and explaining different errors. We might face some errors. How do we fix it? There are different techniques of fixing prompts also. You can always use another AI to improve your prompts. That is always a go-to picture for that. And also, we would be focusing a bit more on how to use cursor for creating a proper React project. This was just an introduction to explain to you what different prompts help you do, what to do, what not to do, and how to go ahead with it. And as you can see, uh, yeah, so that is that. And so you can see we have built a strong foundation in AI development. What you have learned today is effective prompt writing. You now understand how to craft clear, specific instructions that consistently produce quality results from AI. The repeatable 5-point formula, that is your role, task, context, constraints, and output. This is the blueprint for any good prompt. Trust me on this. Whenever you create a prompt explaining it, whenever you're using it as a, code generation prompt, if you're writing a new code, you have a new project on your hands and you're going to start it, explain your role, explain your task, give it the requirements, give it the contents, and then set the constraints. That is also a very important part. That is what you call a railguard, so that your AI looks in a certain direction and it doesn't keep swaying from the main goal. And then finally, you put your output in a specific format you want. You also know how different prompts are used for refactoring and debugging, and the basic cursor AI fundamentals on how to use cursor, what are the different settings, what are the different modes, what are the different models you can use. And next time, I'll also be going through the plan mode, which is a very interesting mode, I would say. I would like to give you a brief introduction of it as well now. So what you do is, if I clear, let's say I'll select a model, I'll keep it at auto for now, just explaining. And if I keep it at plan mode, okay, what do I say? I want to create um fast API plus white React app, which is used for the team management. And now this is my task. So I will this. You are a yeah, so full stack. No, mm, not very sure of what features I would have to put in the application, but it needs to have a basic RBAC and login. Yes, plan load application, application design. Yeah. So as you can see, I just gave it a role and a context since it just came out of the top of my head for explaining to you guys how the plan mode works. So I gave it a simple structure of what I want to do and what I'm clear on and what I'm not clear on. And in my output section, I just gave it a basic key, let's plan for now. And since I'm not sure on what features I'm going to use, I just gave it a basic text stack of fast API plus React, white React. That is like a type of framework within React. So let's see what plan it comes up with. Now it will ask me some questions. So this is what the interesting part about the plan mode is. So what rules do you want in your RBAC system? So for now, I want basic rules. And what database would you prefer? For now, let's go for SQL, and it also gives you different recommendations. Simpler, good for development, recommended for production, MySQL. What authentication for now? Let's keep it at a session-based authentication. What basic team management would we include? User employee management, profile dashboards. Let's select all. Might as well do it. So as you can see, I can select my answers for the questions it has asked me. And now you can see it is creating a plan. So it's not gonna build it directly. It's gonna create a plan and a very detailed plan, as you can see, for each and every aspect of what your application would have. And if you feel like it is missing something or it is adding something which does not need to be there, you can always select like follow up with a prompt to understand what to do, what you want and what you don't want. And this is the main plan file. So let's go through the plan. It has a corporate team management application overview. It consists of backend with Postgres database, React plus white TypeScript modern UI components, protected routes, SQL Alchemy and ORM. That's good. And so this is my folder. Backend app would have my initialization main, entry points, database model, API users, algorithmic, okay, uh, requirements text and my .env. So it gave me a proper structure of how my app would have. It would have an initialization script, an entry script, a configuration script, a database script, a model script, a schema script, an authentication script, all my dependency script. And within the API, it would have all the UI or not UI, the API endpoints for all the different pages like authentication, users, teams, tasks, dashboard, middleware, and my requirement text is just for installing all the dependencies or the modules I'm going to be using with Fast API, a .env file that contains all my environment variables. And now in the front end, looking at it, the SRC folder, it has the main and the app TypeScript file, the client.ts. This is where all my backend endpoints will be connected to my front end. This is the file. It would be using Axios with interceptors, which is a good choice. Components, authentication, dashboard, users, teams, tasks, context, hooks, types, utils. And finally, it will also have a config file and a JSON. This is very basic to React setup and a white config. Now, looking at the database schema, it has also made a plan of how my schema would look. Yeah. So as you can see, user model, it will have different models. Okay, ID, email, team model will have ID, name, description, manager ID. So as you can see, it has explained in a very elaborative manner, even though my prompt was not that explanative, but it asked me questions. It has the ability to question and reason with plan mode. With agent, it just does, even if you have not given it any clear instructions, it will start building based on what you have said and it will assume the rest. This mode like expedites the assumptions at all. It gives you proper questions of where it thinks what to do and whatever you want to do based on your answers. It will create a proper plan first. You can review the plan. You can have it reviewed by your seniors and review it yourself as well to see, okay, are all the things in order to what you wanted to do. And as you can see, API endpoints, authentication, all the APIs it has listed, the configuration is there, the UI components, the dashboards, the user management, team management, client, technology stack, considerations, setup, and then finally it has a to-do list where we are following a plan in a step-by-step manner. We have the setup fast API backend structure, create SQL Alchemy, implement here, and looks like a pretty straightforward setup where which would be followed by any human team while they're developing a similar application. So now this is referenced by, you can also add a new to do, you can add a new agent, you can make changes to whatever you want to the plan by adding a follow-up question. And this I have done with Auto in my experience while planning Composer 1, that is Cursor's own agentic coding model. Now, since it is Cursor's own, it has the capability and the integration with the Cursor ID in a much efficient manner. But my go-to model for coding, in my opinion, would be the Claude Sonnet 4.5. And in cases, I would also go for Opus. It is one of smartest models when I'm struggling with complex tasks. I used to switch to Opus. And for the initial skeleton framework drawing, I always refer OpenAI's ChatGPT model because that helps, that has proved with me in my own personal experience very, very detailed while creating the project structure. So as you can see, since it was at auto, I could not tell you which uh, plan model made this structure, but it gives you a proper elaborate skeleton of how you want your application to be, and it will do it. Now, once you have verified your plan and you are confident, ki, okay, this is good, this is what I want, and if there are changes, you can always change it in a follow-up prompt, and if not, you can just click on build and it will start building that application. We will be covering this in the next segment, which will be held in the next video. So this was just to give you a basic teaser, I would say, of how the plan mode looks and how powerful it is. This can be really helpful for you guys to work with while working on complex tasks, and it also has a proper format of first planning and then reviewing the plan, then adding the features to that plan, then finalizing the plan, and then once you have finalized each and every component of your application, you just build it with one click, and then you move on to testing and integration furthermore. So that was the basic fundamentals of day one. I Yeah. So on day two, we'll be working with a more advanced project. We'll be creating a proper app with a proper backend and a proper UI. And we would also be looking at different errors we might face, different problems we might face, and we'll see how we tackle them using the plan mode, using the agentic mode, and how well uh, Cursor works while developing a full-scale application with a proper backend database and front end. So that was Cursor fundamentals and prompt engineering fundamentals, day one. Thank you for joining.